and welcome to the Pig and Whistle Tales from Azeroth. As always, here at the Pig and Whistle Inn in Stormwind, I go for a variety of subjects with regards to World of Warcraft. So grab a bottle or a pint, sit back and enjoy. This episode, we'll be looking at the latest patch in World of Warcraft. We're going to be looking at 11.1. I've already forgotten the name of it. The Undermined. That's the one. Now, we're going to be diving into essentially what the drive system's like, questing, the feel of the zone, balance changes, all of them different bits and bobs. But as always, we'll start off with the weekly news. We have Aggregation of Horror as your world boss for the week. This can be located within the Ringing Deeps, the very southern part of the Ringing Deeps. World quests are your bonus event for the week. This is essentially you get more reputation for completing world quests. Very simple. So if you're looking to farm anything from old content, please do it via world quests. They do give you a decent amount of reputation at the moment. Warsong Scramble is your brawl for the week. This is essentially Warsong Gulch, but you have 3 different flags. Each of these flags can be picked up, taken back to your base, and you need a total of 10 flags to win. Very simple, very decent. Well, I say decent. This is probably one of the better battlegrounds, to be honest. I very much enjoy this battleground. So do test it out if you want to. You can test out all of the balance changes, different class stuff that's happened, the changes to Marksmanship Hunter, to Enhanced Shamans, Windwalkers, all of that. Yeah, it's a very good spot to test out these bits and bobs. So please do so and please make use of it. But we will start off with the drive system. This is the biggest part of the patch, in my honest opinion, and this is something that is going to be looking to go forward in World of Warcraft from here on out. The drive system, or the DRIVE system, as it's more actually known as, because it's, you know, a full stop in between every... not an ellipsis, I forget the name of the word, the technical name for it, but it's a full stop essentially in between every single letter, so DRIVE. This is a system that is the same as dragon riding for your ground mounts, okay? So, the idea is that you can drift within these cars, and drifting will give you back some boost. Now, for people, this can be quite tough because people don't like the drifting idea. The problem that I have with it is that I get that it might feel like it's built for the drifting system, the like zone itself, but at the same time it feels like it's a bit too tight around some corners. Okay, now what I mean by this is that you're going to be comparing this to dragon riding, yeah, because this is essentially the equivalent of you go from normal flying mounts to the Burning Crusade version where you just go in a straight line to dragon riding when it's very free flowing and, you know, very open. And you're going from ground mounts, which again go straight in a straight line, to something that's very fast but can only still go on the ground. So what I mean by this is that you, instead of having the entire open sky, you have buildings that you've got to contend with. You have turns, twists and turns that you have to contend with. This is the problem with Drive at the moment. It feels like you almost have not a lot of control. And I get that the drifting, you can alter how quickly you drift and stuff. But honestly, I think you can do it via where you're pointing your mouse, if that makes sense. It can be a bit more responsive. The drifting, and I feel like the zone isn't actually built for the drive system. Like, am I crazy? Like, I get that there are these main roads, and these are the main roads that you're meant to be kind of sticking into, or sticking to, and then obviously you get off your mount, or you take it a bit slower when you're going off-road and stuff. But I don't know, it feels like it isn't as clean as it could be. And I get that this is the first zone that they've done it in, and there's obviously will be improvements going forward and bits and bobs and kinks that they have to figure out and stuff. But it's a bit of an annoyance sometimes, but at the same time, it's also a very new system. It's a brand new system that people need to get used to. And this includes myself, because I'm certainly not used to this system. So it's tough. It's tough to get a gauge on it. I don't think it's as accepted as what dragon riding was, or honestly, just complete. Almost, I feel like that there are a bit more things that you could do to help it. But I, at the same time, think that it does need a bit more time to grow, because obviously making ground sort of mounts that go at this speed are going to be a lot more difficult to approach, because you don't have the openness of the sky, essentially, in comparison to dragon riding mounts. Now, I think that drive will still be very good. I think this is the patch where it will be a bit rusty. Same with this expansion. Okay, I think that this expansion, the drive will be a bit rusty. In Midnight, I think it will be a lot better. What I would like them to do is have sort of a area with player housing in Midnight where you can test out the drive system, test out dragon riding, get used to it. Maybe have like a course in the back, or like around in one of these neighborhoods that they're planning to put into the game, like when the housing system comes out, where you can test drive and make races yourselves. Like you just have an open plain of like land essentially, and you can make races yourselves so that you can race people in your neighborhood for gold or something. Honestly, I'm not against that idea. I came up with that at the top of my head. I really hope that they put that in, because that'd be a good way of making gold, just doing the races. But that's besides the point. I think that the drive system will be good. I think that it will need an expansion, though. I don't think it's going to be, now that I've been able to test it more, it's not as good as what dragon riding was. And that's a shame, because I think that it's actually an enjoyable thing. But how do I say this? When I get to the top speed of my car, I love it. I love it, and I love being able to do the drift, the big turns around the Intercontinental Hotel and stuff. I love that open area. But when it gets to, I have to slow down in order to make this turn, it's kind of like, not great, because you'll feel like you're not going as fast as you can, or you're not getting that sort of rush, because in dragon riding, you have to be going as fast as you can to restore your vigor. Now, the vigor is obviously what you use in order to propel yourself forward, use your dragon riding abilities. But in order for you to get your boost in the drive system, you have to drift. And there is simply not enough turns to drift. Or like you don't get it back at a very good rate. It is relatively slow, the rate in which you get this boost meter back. So, there's pros and cons to it. But I think it will need another sort of several months to get used to. And I think Blizzard will accommodate the next zones that they make to have the drive system. And I think it will be better because of this. I think if you slap the drive system into something like, let's say Dawn of Goal, I think that it is a instant 10 out of 10. I think it's an instant hit, because Dawn of Goal is very blocky, is the best way that I can describe it. There's no twisting and turning. There's very much, this is a hexagon there, you slap the hexagon. This is a square here, you just slap the square. What I would like is to be able to ride these mounts in Dawn of Goal, because I can sit there around my PvP vendor and just do donuts around this middle part, this like hammer statue outside the PvP vendor. That's more entertaining than just standing there. So imagine, oh my god, when we were playing Shadowlands and everyone was in Oribos, imagine having the drive system. Imagine that. Everyone's just Tokyo drifting around the middle of this like city center. How fun would that be? Like, that's what this is used for, in my opinion. This is what that is going to be used for. And I don't think that that's a bad thing. I genuinely don't. I think Dawn of Goal and like most of the zones are accommodated to actually incorporate this drive system. So I would like to see them test out the drive system outside of the Undermine. I genuinely would. I think that it would be a massive success. I think it would be more of a success doing that in any other zone apart from the Undermine right now. I genuinely do. And that's the weird thing. It's like they built it for this patch, but the previous patch in 9.0 is the perfect patch for this drive system, which doesn't make any sense. So I really want them to enable it, just so that we can try it, test it out. People in the cities might enjoy it. Who knows? We'll figure all of that out. But they need to change the drift system in terms of how much boost you get for doing the drifting. Okay? That's what they need to change, I think. And I think that that's all it needs, really. Maybe if you want something else, like a super jump, or something kind of deal, ability, something like that. You need ways to knock people off of their mounts, maybe, for world PvP. There's many different ways in which you can go about this, but I think that it'll be good. It just needs time. Okay, that's my sort of analysis on that drive system. The quests in the Undermine. Now, I've done everything that I can in terms of the main storyline quests, and I would say that it's been very successful. I would say that it's a very successful sort of story mission so far. You kind of get the idea that some shit's happening. You get where the story is going, and that it will eventually lead you into the Galagio, which is the next raid of the expansion. And it's a solid questing experience, okay? You cannot do the entire thing yet. You have to wait a couple weeks until you can do the last 2 chapters. But I think that it is a solid experience. But I think it's a little bit underwhelming because of the drive system and trying to get to the places where the quests are using this drive system. That's kind of how I feel, because it's like, it's in a very cramped part of town where there's not really any roads. So I'm just going to be bumper carring myself all the way there. And it's not really fun when you do that. I'm not going to lie. So the quests are good. I think they're very solid. They lead the story forward a bit more, which is what they want to do, because obviously the War Within is the starting point of a trilogy of storytelling expansions. People need to remember this. They are going for story and longevity here, not just everything's got to be done within the War Within. Okay? So you have to keep that in mind. Please keep that in mind. The feel of the zone. Honestly, the jazz is annoying, but at the same time, I love it. And I don't know how to describe that. So when I loaded into the zone, I immediately didn't like the sort of music taste, anything like that. And then I spent a little bit more time in the zone, and then it clicked. Something clicked inside my brain, and it's like, this is like 1930s detective. Like, if you've ever played the game LA Noire, that is what this entire zone reminds me of. It's like criminal gangs, these cartels and stuff, and the music is very 1930s jazz kind of deal. And once it clicked for me, that was the sort of thing that they wanted. Then I understood the zone, and I was a bit more happy with the music. And look, the arena itself that was added in this patch, I don't like it. I don't like the arena map. But the music in the starting room, I think that's good. And you're going to say, well, that's just jazz. Yes, but it was different. It was a different tone, almost. It was more upbeat rather than criminal underworldy sort of jazz is the best way that I can describe it. I really don't know how to describe that. But the zone itself does feel like a goblin zone. It feels like you've made a goblin. You've made a goblin and you're in the goblin starter zone. And I'm not gonna lie, I get that it is a goblin zone, but I just never liked it. And I think that my judgment is going to be very biased on the basis of, I just don't like goblin stuff in World of Warcraft. I really don't. The only goblin sort of place that I've enjoyed in World of Warcraft is Booty Bay. That is the only place I've ever enjoyed in World of Warcraft. And it's kind of upsetting, because I think that they've done a decent job with the layout of the map, with how it looks, with what's there. You obviously have a golf course, you have a dump, you have like a pool, like a makeshift beach essentially. So it's very goblin orientated, which it obviously is. It's going to be a goblin patch. But I think that they have nailed the goblin look for it as sort of a major city for goblins. I think that they did very well. And I think that it's not the best 0.1 patch. It really, really isn't. And I'm sorry to say it, but it isn't. 0.1 patches are there to introduce big mechanics that might have a big defining, like, longevity, like life in the game itself. So, for example, you obviously had the drive system. For example, back in Mr. Pandaria, Timeless Isles was obviously the 0.1 patch, and Timeless Isles has always been iconic as being one of the better 0.1 patches because it was the first to introduce this like daily hub thing, essentially this island of daily hub where you can like get currencies, get reputations, and stuff like that, and that has been a sort of long-standing thing in World of Warcraft ever since, kind of deal. This is the same with like Shadowlands when they brought in Zereth Mortis, with BFA when they brought in, I can't remember what the 0.1 patch was. Was it Mechagon? I think it was Mechagon. So these have been like all throughout WoW. In Legion, it was the Broken Shore. In Warlords of Draenor, I think it was... Oh god, actually, Warlords of Draenor probably got nothing because it was so much cut content. So yeah, I don't think Warlords of Draenor got anything. No, it was Tanan Jungle. It was Tanan Jungle where you got a questing hub there, I believe. But yeah, a lot of content was cut in Warlords of Draenor, so just disregard that point. But I think that them introducing the drive mechanic is the main focus of the patch. And I think that as long as they can say, yep, the drive mechanic was a success, or it wasn't a success because of these reasons, let's work on these reasons, and this can be something going forward in the game as a longevity sort of thing, I think that they'll see that as a success. I genuinely would. So the feel is very good, and the idea of a 0.1 patch, yeah, again, I would say is very good. I would say it's a very solid patch. But again, it's tough to compare it when you're not being, or you're trying so hard not to be biased, because I really don't like goblin stuff in WoW, and it's tough to like oversee that essentially. Now, the balance changes in WoW obviously come through with these major patches. There were multitudes of balance changes. There were entire reworks for Enhanced Shaman, for Hunters, loads of different small balance changes. But the biggest one that I am concerned with is Arms Warrior, firstly, and Windwalker Monks. Okay? Now, I know that this is going to change when we get gear, PvE and PvP gear. I know that this is going to change. The numbers obviously are going to be scaled for that maximum level, but we will see. So far, if anyone's gone up against Windwalker Monks, you'll be noticing that they are doing a substantial amount of damage. A ridiculous amount of damage, some might say. And this is because of Slicing Winds. Slicing Winds was an ability that was brought over from Plunderstorm that you can use as a Windwalker Monk now. It hits me for about 3.3 mil on a crit. Okay, there's a 30-second cooldown, and it's critting me for that. Imagine that burst window when it's doing half of my health as one hit. It's pretty crazy, isn't it? Not many things can keep up with that damage output. Genuinely not many things. So the numbers are obviously going to be a bit buggy and fried at the moment, but you just have to deal with it, because once gear starts to come out and people are gearing their characters, the damage isn't going to move that much, but your health bar certainly will go up, okay? So you do have to take this into account, and please make sure that you aren't going crazy on the forums and being like, oh my god, this is so overtuned at the moment, it's ridiculous. The numbers are going to be quirky, okay? They just will be. It's the way that the game is, and the way that they've, done the patch and done all the balance changes and stuff. They could have definitely looked into maybe testing out some of the like PvP gear, maybe some of the raiding gear. Actually, I think they did the raiding gear. More PvP gear, but, that's besides the point. It is what it is, I'm afraid. Look, overall, I would say that the patch is not the best. Obviously, it's not going to be the best. The best is very tough to beat when it comes to a 0.1 patch. You're probably looking towards Legion and the Broken Shore patch for that. Something along them lines. But I think that the drive system is going to be a very longevity thing, and I think that it will turn out good. I think that the zone is a perfect feel for what they're going for. And I think that they have nailed it. Even though I don't personally enjoy it, I think that they have nailed it. The quests are good. They're somewhat engaging, but sometimes, because you can't fly to them, you only have the drive system or normal mount. You obviously have a bit more of a tedious time getting to them. So again, it's great that they are very simple quests and, quite easy to keep with and see what's happening and stuff. But at the same time, just annoying to get to because of the drive system. You want to test out the drive system, but down where some of the quests are, you can't really get there in a very clean manner, not unless you're taking it very slow driving. But who's going to do that? All right. If you want to play some bumper cars, let's just play bumper cars. It is quite funny. When you slam into a wall at very high speed, you just bounce back. It's like your car's made of rubber. It's actually amazing, by the way. You should try it. But look, I think that it's going to be a decent patch. I don't think it's going to be a make or break one. I think what will make or break it is how quickly they get out the next patch. Genuinely. And I think that they are going to be very quick with getting out the next patch, as I believe that there was an encrypted one that was already put up onto their sort of testing, their internal testing. So we'll see. Who knows? But I love it so far. I want to see the changes actually take motion. I want to see what metas come out of it when it comes down to PvP, PvE, the raiding, Race to World First we have to look forward to. I want to see the raid itself. I don't raid personally, but I love watching the Race to World First. So there's many different things to look forward to. Just have a chilled week or two from WoW. You have no reason to rush gearing. Gearing isn't even possible right now, so it's time to just take in the new mechanics, the new zone, and have some fun with it. Do something that you might not have done before in WoW. Do some pet battles, do some old raids, do some PvP war, some scramble. Have some fun in it and just explore. Next week you can go all out, trying to gear and all of that stuff, like you usually do. But that is where I will end it for this episode. Thank you all very much for listening. Do check out all of the socials down below, constant stuff happening, as well as on the Etsy shop. Multiple things going up there every single, day I try to, but obviously some things take a bit longer. Helmet Domination's just gone up. I am in the works of making something that a lot of people will like, so please stay tuned for that. It's something to do with this current expansion, but it's also to do with Legion, so there's a little bit of a teaser for you, but do check out the Etsy stuff, constant stuff on there, like for WoW players, D&D, everything. Thank you all very much once again, and go with Valor, friend. Goodbye all.